The thoughts and opinions on Just Some Podcast are of the hosts and guests and do not represent the views of organizations that employ them or they volunteer for. They are also not responsible for spontaneous black holes or nuclear wars that may occur. You have been warned.
So alive, I'm lonely. Won't you touch me? I'm a fool on flame. Won't you kiss me? 'Cause I'm leaving here. I got plans to be out of my mind. And I'm stand down for one more night before I leave.
Welcome, everybody, to another fun-filled and exciting episode of Just Some Podcast. This is Tom.
Hey, this is Ben. Tom, man, how's it going, bud?
It's going swell, and I am very excited that we have a special guest star on the episode tonight. Ben, Mike, you guys want to do the honors? You guys set it up?
We want to welcome from all kinds of podcasts and internet Mike from Psych 101. Mike, how's it going, man?
It's going really good, guys. Thanks for having me on. Hi.
There it is.
Man, intros are great.
Yeah, no, the intro's done. Move on. No.
Yep. Episode time. Hi, I'm Mike from Psych 101.
So, Mike, do you got any special plans for the 4th?
You know, I have two kids. One's about to be 4, one's about to be 2, but this would be my almost 4-year-old's second 4th that he understands, and he is pumped. So we're going to go buy, this is the 4th today that we're recording, and we're going to go buy fireworks as soon as I'm done, and that's the rest of my day is blowing stuff up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, just make sure you keep all your fingers. You got 2 eyes, end the day with them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Ben, I read your post with the M80 in it.
Right.
We'll be super careful.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
No, my son was not a fireworks fan for a long time. He's 7. And the last couple of years, though, he's figured out that these are really cool, which makes my wife even happier than me because she absolutely loves fireworks. So it's not good for you, like roller coasters or fireworks, or my wife is like, yeah, let's do that. So
I have the opposite.
Well, virtue by gravity and my size, I'm not much of a roller coaster person.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's not a lot of 4XL size roller coasters rolling around America right now.
Gotcha.
So that's okay. I understand what happens if you hit the ground really hard. So I'm cool with that.
Yep. Ben, are you a roller coaster guy?
I used to be. I've gotten older now, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll let the kids do that stuff. So, matter of fact,
that's weird. I agree with that. I used to love roller coasters, and it's not that I won't ride them, but they're less comfortable now. If that makes sense.
yes,
They're just
absolutely.
like that kind of hurt.
Okay. So
Anyway,
one of the better roller coaster amusement parks in America is not far from where I live. And so we went up there. And of course, the very first roller coaster I go on, I am scared to death. And people, my cousins that are sitting next to me are like, I don't think it's supposed to be making this noise. I'm like, oh God, I hate you people, right? So we get done and it was a blast. I absolutely loved it. I was like, that was fantastic. So we ride several more, but I think the older part caught up to me on the last one was one of the wooden roller coaster rides.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was like a 2-minute car wreck is what I felt like I was in. I was like, nah, I'm cool with that. Like literally my upper back and neck was just jarred. I was like, nah, I don't want to do that anymore. So
Yeah, we have an old wooden one here. Ben, have you ever been to Worlds of Fun?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because Ben and I actually don't live super far from each other. And there's Worlds of Fun here. So we have a ride called the Timberwolf that's like as old as it gets for wooden. And yeah, it's pretty shaky.
Yeah, it'll beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
is this safe? Well, as long as you don't have a spinal condition, sure.
And I did want to say too that you were talking about how your friends were like, I don't know if it's supposed to make that noise. When I was a kid, There was one at Worlds of Fun called the Zambezi Zinger, and which is like my all-time favorite. But I remember the first time, it was my first roller coaster. We got on, and there was some like red paint on the track, and my dad was like, "Look at the blood,"
Wow, that's weird because at a Columbus Zoo they have a water park called Zambezi Bay. So when you said that, I was like, "What's up with that?"
And maybe it's the same
Conspiracies
one.
abound in my head now. I got to get to the bottom of this Zambezi
Zinger.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah.
what's going on here? So, since we're well established now,
Yeah.
Mike, we're going to do the social media part. Is there anything you want to talk about or shout out?
Oh, sure. Pop Psych 101. I'm the co-host of that podcast. It's called Pop Psych 101 Mental Health and Pop Culture. I am not a professional by any means, like you guys or like my co-host. I'm just some guy who has bipolar disorder, and I host my show with a licensed therapist. And our job every week is to look at a movie, a book, or a television show, or at this point anything in pop culture, and break it down for its mental health portrayal. So we specifically pick things that portray mental health to talk about if they're accurate. And it's not always accuracy. Sometimes it's just to talk about what it's portraying. And then we like rate whatever it is that we're covering. And we also do a second episode every week now. And they're usually very short, like 17 to 20 minutes, where Ryan and I, the therapist, we just goof around.
Yep.
Because our episodes get really heavy. And so that's kind of our way to decompress after we record, is to like play a game or something. And it's just a lot of fun. People are responding pretty well to it. And if you want to listen to it, you can just go to poppsych101.com or any social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're at poppsych101.
Yeah, it is honestly an amazing podcast. I truly, truly enjoy your podcast. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass just because you're on our show. I mean, you know that I really, truly do enjoy your podcast.
I do, yeah. I appreciate that.
Even if you've ruined Rain Man for me, I want you to know that.
Did I? We did too. I didn't know how bad that movie was until I watched it again.
I was like, oh my god, you killed Rain Man.
Hold on, I haven't listened to that episode yet. Are you telling me not to?
No, I'm just saying it will change your beliefs. That's all I'm going to say.
Gotcha.
Well, about that episode, real quick, we actually got in trouble for that episode. Yeah, that's the only one we've ever had people write us letters about things that we said.
Because of the autism?
Ryan, he's a therapist and has worked with autistic children and things like that, but he's not autistic. He doesn't have an autistic kid. I, as usual, and is the point of having me on the show, didn't know anything about it.
Right.
So there was a couple, like two things we said that some people thought were not insensitive, but totally uninformed. And they were right. So we definitely corrected that. But yeah, we got in trouble.
Wow. Well, now I want to listen to it. So
it's a good episode. That one was one of my favorites. And then it's one of the very first ones, the bipolar episode that you guys did. And it was just raw and real, hearing from you. And it was just like, that was probably when I became a huge fan. And then it's like, I need to get this guy on our show too.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, Ben has been telling me about that show for quite a while, like way before you two had ever came into contact. Ben was like, dude, you need to listen to this show. So we have been fans, and I think anyone that's listened to this show for a while has heard us talk about your podcast multiple times.
Oh, I love you guys.
So, and you know what? I just realized. So, and I planned on, in pre-show, I didn't make my little note here. So for you guys out there listening, there isn't a problem with my mic per the first half of this show or first half of this season. I am developing a pretty good upper respiratory infection, and Ben is getting some ass-kicking allergies going on. Yeah. So no need to adjust your audio. Mike just sounds great, so that's just Mike. But
my voice, baby.
This guy sounds like a DJ. It's amazing. But I, on the other hand, sound like I swallowed some gravel and cat piss. And so if you hear that multiple times throughout the show, that's what's going on. So don't be afraid. I probably will live. However, if you're that worried, let us know. That'd be pretty cool. I would love to get that. Is Tom okay? Like, yes, they care. Like, I want that. I need that to feed my ego. Goodness, see, there it was. I didn't even have time to hit the mute
I
button.
just like listening to it.
Oh,
Give me
my
that cough.
ego or the coughing?
It's a
So-
cough. It's my thing. I didn't know if you guys knew it's a thing.
Yes, it is. It's a thing. So, Ben, since Mike got out his social media, I know how much you love doing the social media shout out.
I really do, yeah. All right. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We are all at Just Some Podcast. You can find us on the web. We're at www.justsomepodcast.com. Or you can email us, admin@justsomepodcast.com. Also, don't forget that we are on our new podcast hosting service, which is justsomepodcast.libsyn.com. And we are on Helium Radio Network. We're on Helium Radio After Dark. That's Channel 2. Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. Tom, what else can they do, bud?
Well, they can tell all their friends and family about us, shamelessly plugging that every week. They can also give us some ratings and reviews. We'd love to hear back from you. They can also see us. Did you mention YouTube? Did I not? Okay. Well, we know you loves the YouTube, so we're on YouTube as well. And as always, they can go to our website at the bottom of the page. There's an Amazon affiliate link. You just click on that and you do your Amazon shopping. You won't even know we were there, much like a stalker, shadow in the back of the room.
Creeper.
Yeah, just silently watching everything you do. Yeah, that's just us. That's what we do. And hey, Mike, so is that how I get more people to listen? If I tell them I'm going to stand in the back of the room?
What?
Yeah, I think
What happened?
Mike's like, what just happened on this show? I was telling them is that if they click on the Amazon affiliate link, it doesn't do it. Like, they won't even know. They have nothing else. I said, much like I would be willing to stand in the back of your room and just watch you. Like, is that a good thing?
I don't care. I mean, I'm a weird guy, so
I can see it now. 3 weeks from now, they're like, "Who's that guy, Mike?" Oh, that's Tom. He said he'd stand there. So,
well,
he just
as
stands
long
there.
as I had seen you first, so I knew what you looked like, and it wasn't a surprise.
Oh, well, yeah. You know what? The surprise? That's the best part.
I would actually rather you like call me and then be like, "I'm going to come over and stand in your room for a while." I'd be like, "Okay, that's fine."
And you'd be like, all right, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Whatever. Yeah. Tom,
Well,
go ahead, sir.
Yeah, go on. No.
Are you ready to
Please,
get into
by all
stories?
means. Yes, and Mike, well, you said you've listened to the show before, so I'm sure you're going to understand here in a second. He likes to not tell me what he's about to read off,
That's true.
in case it's something he knows is going to piss me off.
Okay.
So that he gets the legitimate reaction.
You
Like,
gotta
because
get
you
the
were in
real.
pre-production, he didn't mention this. He just said he had one.
Yep.
So sometimes it's like, oh, okay, that's not that big a deal. But then sometimes he's like,
He's really thrown
a
one.
guy kicked a puppy and spit on a flag. I'm like, ah. So let's see. What do you got today, Ben?
Well, before I give you the story that we may have missed, I did want to mention, because I forgot to mention it in the intro, that we have decided for the month of July that we are going to do Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we're going to, all 4 of our episodes in the month of July are going to be focused on mental health in some aspect, which is one of the reasons we have Mike on the show for Pop Psych 101. So with that being said, I figured we needed stories that related around mental health as well, Tom. So,
Oh boy.
no, it's nothing bad. It's good. So, found a story that CPAP can help provide relief from depression for sleep apnea sufferers. So, their researchers have found that the CPAP can improve depression symptoms of patients suffering from cardiovascular diseases. And they found that there was a significant decrease in cases of depression after patients received CPAP for their sleep apnea.
Okay.
Yes.
First of all, if they have depression and sleep apnea, we're going to be giving them the CPAP anyways.
Correct. It's not
So
you're not using the CPAP specifically for the depression, just that it can improve moods and depression after being treated with CPAP for the OSA.
okay, and I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying, isn't that common sense though? If a person who's depressed gets a full night's sleep, I guess my point is, what did the researchers think? Like, hey, this guy has he's having a rough time. Let's keep him awake for 2 days. Did they think that was going to improve the condition?
Well, Tom, it doesn't.
That's like saying people that are hungry tend to do better when they eat. Like, oh, okay. Well, now that you cleared that up for me.
I mean, yeah, I was gonna say, like, right out of the cage, something similar. Like, Well, yeah, because sleep is,
Yeah.
I think, the most important thing for mental health. And if someone's suffering from something that's taking away from their sleep quality and they have depression, it's going to increase their depression symptoms like tenfold. And then if they solve that by getting CPAP, then yeah, that's going to, I mean, it seems like it would help a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's my thing, is that even if you're not suffering from mental health condition and you're tired, you're gonna be not at full optimal health. Mike just said sleep is a great part of the therapy. I don't understand what, I guess normally I'm like, oh, I didn't know this part. I'm going, wait, I could have told him that. Like, yeah, I mean,
But you didn't, sir. But you didn't.
Yeah, you didn't.
well, I didn't, but they clearly weren't listening when I figured out that there are memory issues associated with not being able to do Sudoku. So I'm still waiting on my Nobel Prize, Mike. I don't know how we're going to fix that, but I'm still waiting.
Terrible at Sudoku.
Well, if you lose the ability to use like your left arm, you let me know. I'm going to add that to the study.
Okay.
Wow.
What did you think about it, Ben?
Yeah. Yeah. Come on, Ben. Okay. Ben, your take.
Well, I found that it was interesting. I mean, I see what you guys are saying with obviously sleep is vitally important. And as we have shown with other things, I mean, CPAP can help improve lots of conditions as far as obesity and can help improve diabetes, hypertension, cardiovascular risk, all kinds of stuff. So I can certainly see that it would increase or improve, not increase. We're not increasing depression. We're going to improve it. Words are hard. Improve some of the depression symptoms, yeah.
I just imagined, I don't know why, I just like imagine in my head 2 lions, and they're like, hey, this one that we let sleep, he's really happy. And this one I keep poking with a stick, and he seems really pissed off. So therefore, I'm like, yeah, I didn't realize we need to do a study that letting sleep happen is a bad thing, or a good thing. But
I'll find something more interesting for you.
I'm wondering if some people were experiencing depression symptoms because of their breathing problems, and then maybe necessarily they didn't have like chronic depression, and after the CPAP they found that those symptoms subsided, and that was like pretty notable, I guess.
well, and that would make sense if
Yeah.
if that's what they said. But it was the way they put the abstract on the study. It sounds like they were like, hey, we can help improve depression by giving a person that with a known obstructive sleep apnea CPAP, which we were going to do anyways. And I'm just like, what? I don't understand the point. Guys that like hamburgers, we gave hamburgers, and they seemed happier.
They were.
Oh, well, there. Now that you put it like
but
that.
one of them said he would pay us on Tuesday.
Yes. I think his name was Wimpy. I'm pretty sure that guy, he gladly would pay us on Tuesday. Oh, I am so old. There are so many people listening to this right now. They have no clue what that meant.
I know, it's a
You're right. They're like, what?
It's so sad. Have you ever watched an older movie? Like, I think I was watching a Lethal Weapon or something the other day, and there's something going on. I'm like, just text him. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
If they had cell phones, that whole movie plot falls apart. Like,
Yeah,
right there.
you know that cell phones have created this entire, with screenwriters, a big problem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they have to find reasons for people not to have cell phones, and because they solve almost every like plot device.
It's true. Yeah.
It is. It just kind of cracks me up though. I didn't think about it though until that moment. And like I said, I don't know if it was Lethal Weapon. I just remember watching that the other day, but I was just call. What is the problem? Like, why won't you just oh, there wasn't a cell phone in this part of the movie. Gotcha. So, Ben,
Yes, sir.
lead us forwards.
Well, as Mike alluded to earlier, he does have a diagnosis of bipolar, correct, Mike?
That is correct, among other things.
Other than being a cool guy. I mean,
Yeah, there you go.
but with it being our Mental Health Awareness Month for July and wanting to do episodes related to that, we wanted to bring Mike on. And very similar to what we did with Andy when we did the heart transplant story, is just kind of let Mike take it from that perspective and see if we can learn something from him in regards to that. So we'll kind of ask you questions along the way, Mike, and just kind of see where the conversation goes.
Absolutely. Totally open. I'm transparent as possible. That's like kind of my goal. So
Okay, so when did it start, or when did you first start realizing that maybe there was some issues?
I've kind of pinpointed it to around 19 years old, though I have a very vivid memory of my first panic attack when I was 17. For me, this all felt like it started as extreme panic and anxiety, which now looking back after years and years of psychiatrists and inpatient and outpatient and being diagnosed bipolar was, I was in the early stages, was hitting some manic phases and not knowing what it was and kind of freaking out. It just like the up was giving me anxiety and panic. But yeah, so like around 19, I would say it started manifesting, which is not unusual. Bipolar disorder usually manifests in people's early 20s,
Right.
mid 20s. So 19 isn't out of the ballpark. I would say, it does seem to intensify over time as you get older. But yeah, so it would have been around 19 years old when I first started noticing I felt different, having panic and anxiety, started, acting and doing different things I wasn't doing before, that kind of stuff.
And so, how long did you try to deal with symptoms yourself before realizing, hey, maybe I need to either talk to someone or need to see someone to discuss medication, or just just seeing what the hell's going on?
Right. So that is a huge thing for people that are experiencing mental health issues is something like the average onset to seeking help time period is like 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And I would say I didn't get into the right people that I needed to be talking to till I was like 25.
Okay.
So about 6 years. But I did go to my PCP and get like an antidepressant.
Okay.
And like I was on Xanax for a very long time. And this is before I think people were really super aware of just the 8th layer of hell that benzodiazepines are. But yeah. So I mean, I just don't count the PCP because, and this is no offense to them, it's just that it's not their ballpark,
Very true. I mean, it's true.
So yeah, so it was like 25 before I got to somebody that was really directing me in the right direction.
So, with seeing your PCP, then and starting an antidepressant and the benzo, I'm going to assume just from that they were not necessarily considering it to be bipolar, more, oh, you have depression and you have anxiety, and so they're kind of trying to treat both. Is that?
That's correct. And there's a good reason for that. And that's also why I look back and say, I did have some good PCPs because they were doing what they could with the knowledge surrounding it. And that is like, so I have bipolar disorder, but it's actually bipolar 2.
Okay.
So I do have periods of mania. Let me explain. So
Hypomania?
it's called hypomania for a bipolar 1 person. And this would be like what you see in the movies. That's what they would normally portray if you saw a bipolar person. They go through what's called manic episodes. And that would be what people would describe as crazy, and doing things like sexual things and that they wouldn't normally do, or gambling, or going on drug binges, or just wild, crazy delusions of grandeur, those kind of things. And then that would be followed by a down period, right? But it's not an insanely super extended or low down period. It's just like a coming off that mania. Whereas a bipolar 2 person, and that would be like me, I get hypomanic.
Right.
So I don't make all of those really crazy decisions. I'm not so intense that people are like distancing themselves, which is really common for bipolar 1. I just get intense and goal oriented like crazy. If I start working on something, I'll work on it for 16 hours without moving. I can't sleep, it's insomnia, that kind of stuff. But the bad part is when I come off of a hypomanic area, I go down into a depression, and that's the hard part. It's a deep, long, dark depression, and it's tough.
So most of the information I understand about it is that these cycles, they're not generally minute to minute. Like you're going to be up for a period of time and then you transition for a period of time. Is that more correct? Because I think most people, when they think of bipolar, they think of a person that's like happy 1 second and crying the next. I'm like, no, it's more of a slope.
Yeah, that is kind of a common misconception, I guess. And I think it's really logical for people to think when they hear bipolar and then understanding that means mood shifting, that they think, okay, the moods are going up and down really quickly. Or some of them might even say, oh, everyone has mood shifts that go up and down, but bipolar is different. And this goes across the whole mood affective disorder spectrum. There's several different ones. And that is, not only are the moods elevated from what a normal person would feel, and when I mean elevated, I mean very, very elevated. I guess you wouldn't know unless you experienced it, but they're totally out of the realm of a normal emotion. But they also last days, weeks. The depression side of mine, I've been in a deep depression up to 11 months.
Wow.
And then for me, the hypomania, it's usually a couple of weeks when I get that. So, which is what is a big down, or not down, but it's what really sucks about that, because a lot of bipolar 2 people don't experience their hypomanic sessions quite as long, but I'll get them, and man, I'll just go at it for a while, which is good for my podcast because I really just start producing.
Swear to God, I was just about to say that, but that's got to be handy sometimes.
It is handy. Yeah. I'm working on a blog article about how being bipolar is like having a superpower.
I like that.
I don't need to sleep. I don't need to. Man, if I have a goal, I'm getting there, you know?
So one of the things that you mentioned, and this is something that's been in the news recently, the past couple of years, where you said, especially to type 1s in their hypermania, especially sexual issues,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of publicity on the school teachers that have been sleeping with children. And I noticed in multiple accounts, the women were saying, I'm bipolar. I think I was in a hypermanic episode. That's what led to this. Now, I'm not saying it's right or that's actually what happened. They might be trying to use that as an excuse, but
Right.
knowing what we know,
It makes sense, but I would say is even when I'm in that frame of mind, and don't get me wrong, I've done some crazy shit, right? When I was up there. One time when I was up there, I joined the Navy, like one day.
wow, one day,
And just like one day I walked up and joined the Navy. And it's like coming down off of it whenever I had to leave. And
well, did you go? Like,
I
or
did. I went. And yeah, that's the whole thing. Yes, I did go to the Navy.
Oh, what was your MOS?
Oh no, I got kicked out in boot camp for psychological reasons.
Gotcha. She got a free trip to Chicago. So
I did. Yeah, I did. And but here's the thing is, while I was doing that, I knew it was a bad decision. I knew it. I knew that I shouldn't be doing it. Or there was a time where I met a girl online who lived in Mexico City, and I bussed her up here when I was feeling up there, and I knew I shouldn't be doing that. So what I'm saying about those teachers is, yeah, they might have been manic or hypomanic, but they knew they were doing wrong. Like, go to Craigslist if that's how you're feeling.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, well, and I never assumed or thought that was a legitimate, oh, well, since you're saying that, you get out of it. No, but when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember them saying that, and multiple of the suspects were like, well, or that's what that was reported. She's bipolar, and that may have had.
Yeah, it's not an excuse, like you said, but the decrease of inhibitions is an absolute real thing.
So we find out you're starting to get treatment. Did you ever find or experience anything that you found to be more helpful than something else? Now, granted, everyone's an individual, but what was your personal path? Or do you still feel like this is a struggle, or have you found a level where you feel comfortable at?
Yeah, yes. I say it's a battle. Bipolar maybe more than others, and then less than others. Because of the mood shifts, you're always questioning whether what you're doing is working, because the idea, like for example behind psychiatric meds, is to get you level as best as possible.
Right.
So then when like I'm on lithium and I'm on anti-seizure meds and all sorts of things, and when I still will go up or down, then you get angry. Why is this still happening? But I would say, I'm in a good spot now because I have support like crazy. And that's the number one thing, is support. Like
The
my
good support
wife,
system.
yeah, support system, friends, family, anything you can find. Like my wife would like lay on a train track for me.
Right. Which is awesome.
Yeah, she's the best. But before that, going through the process to get where I am now was kind of fucked, man. There was a lot of weird there was a lot of weird stuff that happened with some people that I feel shouldn't be involved in that line of work.
Uh,
But it's hard to explain. You have to keep going anyway. You have to keep trying. You have to keep going back. You have to find the right people, because at 25, when I started seeking people out, the odds are you're not going to get your answer out of the cage with mental
Right.
health, because this isn't a chemical thing where they can draw your blood and say this is what it is and here's your pill.
Yeah.
And even everyone's bipolar experience is separate and different. So so that's difficult. Then you run into personalities as well. So along the way, I've had several therapists, several psychiatrists. I've been forced inpatient into hospitals for suicidal ideations, and I've been in outpatients for suicidal stuff. And like these personalities, that you just find a lot of different people, and they all have something. They all have their opinion, because
Yeah.
that's the bad thing about mental health. There's a lot of opinion involved. So the journey is tough, and that's why I just lean on my support system as much as possible.
Well, and from the treatment side, that's one of the scariest aspects to me. And I don't know how Ben feels, but because I can't CT your head and say, oh, this is what's going on. Or just like you said in the beginning, they did honestly what I would have probably thought. Okay, this is probably some anxiety, some depression. Let's start there. And unfortunately for you, that just delays your treatment. And
I mean, but you got to start somewhere, right?
correct. I just wish if you break your arm, we're going to find it. We're
Yeah.
going to fix it. If you're saying, hey, I need help and I don't know how to tell you it,
Yeah.
I can't draw a lab. I can't do a CT. That's going to tell me. And that's the opinion scares me, and the lack of definitive testing.
Yes.
As a newer, or I shouldn't say newer, as a new, I still feel like I'm a new nurse practitioner. It's a daunting task to say, hey, I'm going to affect your brain chemistry and hope it's right.
Right. And it is like that. And even from a patient's perspective, you feel the same way. So there's some understanding out there with people being confused about mental illness or mental health or whatever you want to call it. But there's psychiatrists out there, that won't call it a mental illness because you can't test for things. And it's it's just a struggle finding different people doing different things, and actually have a story that can kind of highlight how opinions can muddy the waters.
Huh?
So first off, I had to apply for something, and this is within the last year. And I had to go back when I was applying for this thing and contact all my doctors and find out what, all the meds I've ever been on since like 2010, right? And lo and behold, even before I got my bipolar diagnosis, or the one that I finally agreed with, and that's a big thing for me. Like, I feel like you have to agree with what someone says is happening with you.
Yeah.
Correct.
And before I finally found the person who said it out loud to me and I agreed with it, I looked back at the meds I was on with a lot of these people, and they were all prescribing me antipsychotics, and I had no idea. They didn't tell me anything. They didn't say, I think you're bipolar or anything. They just was like, here's a med. And I thought maybe it was an antidepressant, but I was like on Seroquel or Abilify or whatever,
Mm.
And But that being said, is the reason I'm saying that is because so this whole time I've been treated for a mood disorder, right? So all these people agreed with each other, and whether or not I paid attention to what they were saying is a different story. But there was one guy who had an opinion, and this is how the waters get muddied. And I have a weird relationship with him, and he was my therapist, and he was the therapist I've to date saw the most regular and the longest. And I'm very angry at him, and I have a lot of hostility towards him, but also a lot of love because he helped me in a lot of ways. But the thing that he did that made me never go back to him, and kind of, I wouldn't say I hold a grudge. I don't know what feelings to wrap around. But so when I was 27, around there, this is when I was really getting serious about like therapy,
Right.
And I went to this therapist, and we worked together for, like a year and a half. And he diagnosed me with dissociative identity disorder.
Whoa.
And so for people who don't know what that is what you would think of as multiple personality disorder. Now, there is a huge misconception as to what that actually means, which is why pop psych is a thing.
Yes.
Is to make people understand like multiple personalities aren't what you think they are, and that kind of thing. But, and of course I believed him,
Right.
And we went through a lot of therapies. I went through EMDR for some past like memory stuff, which is actually very helpful for some of the stuff that, just bothered me about some certain aspects of my life. I recommend EMDR for like everybody.
Hold on just real quick. So there's going to be people, and I want to make sure I'm clear. EMDR is like the focusing technique.
Yeah, it is. It's called eye movement desensitization reprocessing. I can't say, I'm bad at big words, but
You're good.
It's that one.
Anyway, what they do is, and there's several ways to do it, is they trigger your right brain and your left brain back and forth while you're combing through memories. And the easiest and simplest way to put it is what it does is memories that are having effect on your life, like a traumatic memory or something, can like, in layman's terms, like store themselves in your short-term memory, and then like never went to your long-term memory. So EMDR can help move your memories to where they're supposed to be so that you can process them naturally. It's a real thing, and it really works.
This sounds like it would be really great and helpful for something like PTSD.
Yes, no. That's like a primary use for PTSD,
Okay.
right? But it's useful in all sorts of things. I mean, trauma is trauma, whether or not you have PTSD symptoms from it or not.
Right.
And so he did a lot of great things with me, like EMDR. It's still to this date the best therapist I've ever had. But what happened is he had me in his office, and this is still, to me, I feel regret and embarrassment and shame, even though I know I shouldn't. And that's, he had me in there like acting out sort of these like identities.
Like leading you on.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
It was like putting it in my head, and I believed him, and I wasn't lying. I just was going along with it, I guess.
Right.
And then I found out after about, I don't know, I guess close to a year and a half, I just didn't feel it was right. I didn't feel he was right. I was like, I just don't feel like that's right. Because we had this person called the suit, right? And so the suit was the person that did all my business for me. When really, if you look back, the suit was my hypomania. Was me being super goal oriented, right? So he took that as I had a separate personality.
Gotcha.
And I found out that he, like in college or whatever, like did his dissertation or whatever it was on DID. And basically he had someone come in his office, and in my mind he went, ooh, I got one.
Yeah.
He stopped right there and just went forward with what he thought was that, without like diving, like without thinking more.
Because to a hammer, everything is a nail.
Right. Basically. So he put everything into the like box that he thought it fit into. And so that's where opinions can not only affect the lives of the patients, but they can also affect how people in the general public see things. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's, wow.
It hurts stigma, or it increases stigma even.
So was it just a realization, or was it research, or was it, what happened that made you go, this isn't it?
Well, it would be the fact that a huge amount of the time when I was in therapy with him, I was actually depressed, right? I was in a down period. But even when I'm depressed, I'll still have periods of hypomania, and I'll come out and be like all super productive, but like the crash is quick, right? And I go right back into it. And it's when I came out of that, it was right at the beginning of summer, I remember. It's like my thought pattern started changing and things started kind of settling down and leveling out to, quote unquote normal. And it was just like, as soon as that went away, I was like, oh God,
Huh.
what's been
Yeah.
happening for the last, that was the 11 month depression.
Wow.
And I was like, what was happening? This isn't, so I started questioning it, reading more. I hadn't done a lot of self-advocating up to that point. So kind of learning, and I just disagreed with it. Once I just saw it from not being wrapped in it, I just disagreed with it. And I never told him, I just stopped going.
Did you have any changes in like medication, or were you still doing EMDR? Was there anything that helped bring about your clarity, I guess?
No, this one was time, because at this time I was seeing a therapist, but I didn't have a psychiatrist at this point. So I was on a really small dose of Lexapro.
Okay.
And well, Xanax, they always just gave me Xanax, but I mean, they used to hand that stuff out like candy.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, it was just coming out of like my fog of depression, like naturally, like a natural like mood shift.
That's interesting.
But yeah, that's why it took 11 months, because I didn't have, like now when I hit a depression, like I'm on like more of the right meds, so they don't last that long.
Is there any, I don't want to say trigger, trigger's the wrong word. Trigger would be the cause. Is there anything that you start recognizing that makes you go, okay, I know where I'm heading? Or is it just experience?
No. It's definitely a recognizing thing, and learn to recognize, right? In fact, actually, Ryan, co-host Pop Psych, we talked about this on the episode that's coming out on Monday, because, well, he was talking about an app that they're testing on mental health patients that tracks your phone usage over time, and it will gain a medium of what you normally do, and then it will report divergences out of what your normal pattern of phone usage is. And
wow.
Ryan thought that was really useful for someone like me, because he knows that when I go up, my pattern of phone use is going to change. Ryan knows he's going to get messaged a whole lot more from me.
Right.
Because you got shit to do.
That's right.
Come on, Ryan.
I got stuff to do, and he knows that the website's going to get like revamped from ground up every time. And that, like, right, I've been writing blogs recently, so he'll notice that stuff, and he thought it is a good sign. That's a sign, right? And that can help you. But I have learned to notice signs naturally, and it's things like, well, one is my wife. She notices before I do. She'll notice that I'm talking to her like intensely. And the reason I'm focusing on the hypomania part of it is because the downswing comes after that, right?
Right.
So, that's where it starts. So we can predict the downswing, because we know once I'm up that it's going to come after.
You're going to come back down.
Right. And so she'll notice that stuff coming on, like, I guess my eyes, or I'll talk faster, or I'll talk more, that kind of stuff. But the thing I notice first is when, this is an example I always use, when I have to go to the restroom, but I'm working on something, and I sit there for 6 hours working on that same thing without going to the bathroom. That's like one of the first things I'll notice. Or I won't eat.
Wow. And listen, sorry, Tom, go ahead.
No, go on, Ben.
So in listening to Mike, when I first got out of school, I'm going into my 6th, 7th year now as a practitioner. And I tell all my students now, I'm like, whenever you're in school, pay attention to mental health. I'm like, there's so much mental health in family practice, and you don't realize it. Some of that is because of the stigma, because they can come to family practice and it's not the mental health building. And so if they're seen in the parking lot or they're seen in the lobby, then they can be there for anything and not necessarily mental health. Whereas if they're in the mental health building, that's the only thing there.
Primary care building.
They're there for, yeah. No, I mean, but
no, I got what you meant.
I have learned a lot over the last several years, and a lot of what Mike is saying is very similar to kind of what I try to tell patients now, in that, this is not an infection where I can know what antibiotic is going to work for this. This is trial and error, and you have to come in and you have to be honest with me about what's going on, and you have to tell me if things are working, things are not working, because what's going to work for you is probably not going to work for the next person. And then I try to explain with some of the bipolar patients, and we are very lucky in our office to have a behaviorist on staff. And so we have someone who can come in and help do some mental health screenings and some things of that nature. So that is very, very helpful.
Yeah.
But I try to explain bipolar kind of like a roller coaster is kind of how I explain it. And, or even with the mood stabilizers, how we're not going to make the track straight by any means, but we're just trying to take some of the hills and the valleys out of it.
Yes, it's less bumpy. Yeah, no wooden roller coasters.
Right.
Yes, we're trying to avoid timber wolves.
Yeah.
But I mean, that just at least makes me feel like I'm hopefully on the right track with trying to take care of some of my mental health patients that I see, because I would say 75% of primary care has a mental health aspect attached to it in some way, shape, or form, whether they're there for that specifically or if it's something that you're picking up on and just talking to them about other stuff.
Yeah, and that goes both ways too. And first off, Ben, and I think it's amazing to have someone that has that in mind when you're seeing people. I always preach this thing called mental health is health. And I think literal disease and illness and mental health are so separated in the world of people's minds and care. So we have separate buildings, right? You have your mental health building and you have your hospital, right? And they're just so separated. And I'm not saying everyone needs to be an expert in both, but the fact that you're aware that maybe someone's coming in and they have these issues, and maybe you're able to say, I don't think that's me. But for me, when I say mental health is health, like, wouldn't it be great if, you have a behavioral person there, but wouldn't it be great if you had mental psychiatrists there too, because it's like the same thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I did.
And it goes both ways too. Like Ryan was talking on an episode recently about how did Brain on Fire. Have you guys seen that movie?
I have not seen it, but that's the episode I'm listening to you guys talk about now.
Okay. And it's a good one for this exact conversation because it involves the diagnosis trap, which is being diagnosed with something that you don't have because of symptoms or opinions, just like we're talking about. And Ryan was talking about how if he gets certain people come in and they're talking about let's say a hallucination, Ryan is going to have on his mind that there's always that possibility that this is not psychiatric. You know what I mean? And he's going to see them and keep talking to them. And then if he gets windfall that that they need to go to the doctor so they can get tests like that, he will tell them they should go.
Well,
but it should be in the same building.
I think first of all, I don't think you're going to find any primary care for certain that disagree with you, Mike.
Right.
I don't think there's any primary care providers in America that are going, no, I got too much mental health support. That's just not a thing. I find though, it almost falls into the out of sight, out of mind in some ways. If you come in with a dislocated ankle, there's no ignoring that, right? I can see it. You can't walk. That is a gross deformity that we can see. When someone comes in and says, hey, I just don't feel right, there's a lot of people that are just going to go, and it's not something we can see, and it's not something that I can detect.
Or bill insurance for.
Yes. And so therefore it becomes how do I fix this thing? And I'll be honest, some providers are so busy, they're just like, well, you fall to the back burner. Because I know the guy with diabetes, I can track his blood sugar. So we can fix that, but I don't know how to fix you.
It's like a cold case.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and that's not to excuse it. I'm just saying at some point there has to be a better system to figure it out. I'm not saying I know what it is, but the mental health is health. I heard you and Ryan say that on one of your episodes. And again, I don't think anybody so much disagrees as much as I don't know how to get there from here.
Right. And when we say that, we talk to the public. Ryan especially is aware of exactly what you're saying. I preach that because just for your everyday person to understand that fibromyalgia and depression are running the same thing,
Yeah.
Yep.
So Mike, before we let you go, I know you had kind of an odd, I don't want to say episode. I don't know how to frame it.
Oh yeah.
I was wondering when this was coming.
Develop, and it's one that you and I kind of talked about a little bit. And in thinking back and in talking to my wife, who's a nurse also, and she's like, "Yeah, I can remember hearing about that in school, but it was just something you don't hear a lot of." So, can you kind of fill us in on some of that?
You're talking about the olfactory hallucination?
I am, sir. Yes.
That's the. Is there another hallucination? Hold on. No, wait a second. I'm kidding. Yes, the olfactory.
You know, I've heard stuff before. I don't know. People that have bipolar can have like what's called psychotic episodes, and then they can experience hallucinations when that happens. There is a time when I was really, really just like grinding teeth, and like I was hearing like echoes. Like if you were to talk in a room, it sounded like you were like add reverb on your microphone, you know?
Yeah.
That was lasted not long, like an afternoon. But what happened recently, and this is the only time this has ever happened. I hope it's the only time it ever happens. And we still, you know, we don't know why. We can't really pinpoint it on whether it's I was having a literal hallucination. Well, I mean, it was a hallucination, but we don't know why, you know?
Right.
Just one day, my wife was at work and I was at home with the kids and I was about to wash the dishes. And I was walking by my bathroom and I noticed a smell coming from the bathroom. I mean, like, open the door, knock you over. Now, it wasn't a gross smell, so it wasn't like, you know, turds.
Children.
Yeah, which, you know, would be super normal and I wouldn't even paused.
Right. Yeah.
It was like a really high end, like, okay, so if turds are a low smell, right? If that's a down low smell, this was an up high smell. And
Rosemary.
yeah, but I can't explain it. I've never smelled it before. It's not a smell that's ever come into my life. I don't even know if it exists. Like my brain created it, but it's a really high end smell, and the only way I can describe it is it had hints of rust and clovers in it, but it was so thick and like just invasive. It was making my stomach sick, like because it was so smelly. So I like shut the bathroom door. I was like, "What?" I was like, "I'll take care of that later." And what I thought it was is the day before my son had clogged the sink with some Kleenex, right? And I thought, okay, and I hadn't cleaned it out yet. And I thought, okay, those like things have molded and something weird happened in the pipes and that's like producing a smell.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right. Yeah. And I went to the kitchen to wash dishes and I'm washing them and I'm smelling that smell. And I'm smelling it really strong out of the kitchen. You know, I'm not a plumber here, obviously. I wrote this in the blog. Like, I know nothing about house plumbing, obviously, because I thought, okay, so the smell from the bathroom is coming through the pipes and out of my kitchen.
Which
sink.
I could see for someone who doesn't, I mean, I don't know plumbing, so I could see, yeah.
Yeah, I would have guessed the same thing. Not the Bob Vila in my house.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, and part of me knew that couldn't be, but I was like, yeah, this has got to be. So, but man, like the smell, it was pissing me off. Like I was getting angry because it was just like hitting me in waves, like different things I was holding. And I kept screaming like, what the fuck is the smell? And so I was like, I got to get these dishes done. I got all the dishes done and I still smelled it, but it was like lessened. And then I looked and there was a bottle sitting there, like a bottle that we hadn't washed in a day or whatever. So the little bits of milk were, you know, congealed or whatever. So I smelled that and there was the smell, right? It's like, that's the smell. It's coming from this bottle. So I cleaned the bottle out and the bottle still smelled like it, but very lightly. And I was like, okay. And then I was just like, but how did it get in the bathroom? But I kind of just shrugged it off. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I got to clean the counters. So I pull out the cleaner that I've used for 2 years and I spray the cabinet. And now as soon as I spray the cabinet, the smell is like back to just being overwhelming.
Wow.
So I'm like, what is going on? So then I think, oh my God, it's the cleaner because I cleaned the bathroom with this cleaner.
Okay.
And now I smell it. The cleaner was under the cabinet and now it's out here and it's stronger. So it's been the cleaner the whole time. So I get out the other cleaner that I have that's a different brand, different smell, and I spray that one and I smell it. And the smell is there, but it's a different level of potency. So at this point, I'm starting to go, what is happening, right? So I start walking around and smelling like arm rails and like doorknobs, and every single thing was the smell. And so the best way I can explain it is the original smell was still there of something, but this new smell was painted over the top of it and just had like little holes for the original smell to like seep through.
Huh.
And so, however thick a thing normally smells, however potent something normally smells, so like a desktop, how it barely has a smell, but it does have a smell.
Right.
That would be how potent this new smell would be. So, if, for example, the cleaner, which is a very potent smell, smelled very potent of the new smell.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to get pretty anxious about it. So I thought, okay, maybe I went in the bathroom and the smell just stuck. And not to be gross, but like I thought maybe I have an old booger in my nose. And I need to like blow my nose and it'll go away. So I went outside and like blow my nose. But this is when I really started kind of losing it. Was then when I did that and the wind, because it was really windy that day, the wind smelled like it.
Oh, wow.
And so I went in and I called my wife and I said, can you please get home ASAP? I need to know if you smell this. I need to know, like, I'm not crazy. You have to tell me this is real. She's like, well, I'm on my way home. And it just so happens that her and my little sister showed up at my house at the same time, like coincidentally. And lo and behold, neither of them smelled the smell. So I start freaking out.
Right. Rightfully so.
Start just kind of freaking out. And I really couldn't concentrate at this point because, anxiety. And like, my wife, it's not that she wasn't taking it seriously. I just didn't think she knew how frightening this was for me. And she's like, well, call like a nurse line or something. And like, I couldn't figure out how to call a nurse line. And once I finally did like figure out, like I called like the wrong number. And then like, I didn't have it in me to like figure that out,
Yeah.
And so I actually contacted Ben first but you were on a trip, right, Ben?
Yeah, I was in the Caribbean. Yeah, sorry.
Because I didn't know what to do. And the only thing I could figure out was texting somebody I knew. And I know 2 nurse practitioners. And so Ben was out of town. And I'm sorry, Ben. I know that, you're like, I'm not on the clock. It's really not a good thing to do, but I didn't know what else to do.
No, and had I been here, I would have called and talked to you. Not that I probably could have been able to do anything, but I would have.
Yeah, I'd have been like, "You're having a stroke."
Well, that's what they told me, right? Is what ended up happening. But I did contact another nurse practitioner that we know online, who I was like, listen, I know that this is not like something that's like super accepted for you to do, to talk about this kind of stuff online, but this is happening, and I can't get a hold of a nurse here. And she calmed me down. We talked about meds. I had been on a new med recently, so she's like, it could be that med. It could be the lithium you're on. It could be a number of things, but if it doesn't get better by tomorrow morning, you should go to the hospital, right? I say, okay. Or if anything gets worse. Well, then as soon as we get off the phone, I start having tremors, right? My hands and my feet start shaking. And then at that point, I lost it. And my sister rushed me to the emergency room where I had 155 heart rate, legs and arms are shaking. And basically what happened there is they came in, I heard the lady say stroke protocol in the hallway. I mean, I was in the emergency room, like in a room, a doctor was in there. This is like 3 minutes as soon as I got there. And they set me up for CT because they thought stroke too, right? And they set me up for a CT. But I will say, as soon as they found out I was on psych meds and then I have bipolar, they definitely calmed down about what they thought it was. Like they weren't as urgent, which I don't blame them. I think in the end they were right, So I got the CT, wasn't there. There was nothing, no stroke. I am, however, currently I'm going to go see a neurologist because I'm just like, I have to just make sure,
Yeah, I understand that. And
Yeah.
the ER side of me is like, I don't know what's wrong, and I know that strokes and like you said earlier with Ryan, just because you're having the mental like hallucination does not mean that there's not a physical reason.
Right. Or
So
that
we
it's not
have to
real.
rule that out.
Yeah. Like it's real either way, whether like a stroke or tumor or seizures causing it, even if it's the mental stuff, like whatever's causing it, it was real.
And it sounds, because at first I'm like, oh, that's a funny story. And then you're like, but it won't go away. And it was in the wind. I was like, okay, I'd probably be like, okay, something's wrong at this point.
Yeah. And I tried to ground myself. I did my coping skills. Like I talked to our nurse practitioner friend to ground me in reality about what could be really happening. I talked to my wife about getting here and smelling it so that I was grounded to reality.
Mm-hmm.
And once all that went way, yeah, that's when that was just after that. It was panic attack too, so it was really hard to tell at the hospital whether I was just having a panic attack or seizing from a stroke or whatever.
Yeah.
You're right. Wow,
So
I mean, I'm glad you're better. I'm glad things are
yeah,
as far as the.
So when they said you're not having a stroke, well, like, how long did it take for like the symptoms to resolve?
like 3 days.
Wow.
But it got better every day. And then the last thing that happened was the smell went away, but I was smelling everything like it was the first time I smelled it. I can't explain it. It was like everything was, I could smell the doorknob, like from standing there. Like I could just smell everything. And then that went away.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
I'm glad things are better for you as far as that aspect of it.
Yeah, but like the reason I would tell that story is because people don't know that a bipolar person can experience a hallucination, and olfactory or smell hallucinations or phantom smells are a thing, which I didn't know.
Well, it's certainly not going to be the first thing I'm thinking.
or anybody, yeah. Like, what did you guys think when I was like going through everything?
Well, honestly, like I said, my first thought was head bleed. If you came into me and you said, hey, this is what's going on, or at the very least, I have to rule that out. And I guess maybe that's just the way I practice. I just go, okay, I see where this is going, and it could be a couple different things, but the worst thing it could be is an internal head bleed, and we need to get that squared away.
And I would agree. I kind of would work from worst case scenario forward and rule out stuff with the head CT and kind of go from there. Checking drug level.
Even if it was like, let's say medication. Okay, I can fix your medication later. But if it's a head bleed, we got to fix that now. Like, that's not a wait around.
Yeah. And that's what they did. They did the right thing. I was in a CT scan and I had 15 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
Well, maybe head bleed. Maybe it could be ischemic too. I'm just saying some kind of stroke. There's something I'm going to have to like, no, we got to rule that out first.
No, I would
It's
agree.
crazy, but in the end, we still don't know what it was. Likely it was the new meds I was on, or I was also weaning on, I just come off of Lunesta, and there is a side effect of withdrawal from Lunesta that's hallucinations. And
Interesting.
yeah.
See, those sleep meds scare the daylights out of me.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, before we let you go, we always try to end our show when we have a guest with a segment called 5 Questions.
Ooh.
So I'm going to cue the music up here, and then we'll ask you the 5 questions. Join us on a journey into the inner psyche of our guest as we ask 5 questions.
Oh my God, I love that so much. I do that same kind of stuff.
Thanks. I learned from you, so there we go. Yeah. All right. So, question 1. I'm going to change question 1 slightly because you're non-medical. So, let's just go with what's your favorite word?
My favorite word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Just let it rip, man.
Okay, I'm going to say my favorite word is Brianna.
Ooh, a name.
Which is your wife's name, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
He wanted all 12 people listening to this to know that. So,
Yeah.
Question 2. If you could do any job in the world other than what you currently do, what would it be?
Have a job.
Well, there you go. See? Any job? Just
No, I would probably, like anybody like us, I would love my full-time position to be paid in something I love to do, like podcasting or writing or videos or anything like that.
All right. Question 3. Think back to what your first car was.
what was your first?
1994 Chevy Camaro.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness. You started in a Camaro?
Yeah, metallic green. My dad was going through his midlife crisis when he bought the Camaro and coming out of it when I got my license at 17, and he gave it to me.
Well, I don't even need to ask the rest of the question, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. So, stylish ride or rolling turd?
Say that again?
So your first car, was it a stylish ride or a rolling turd?
It was very nice when I got it. I think I wrecked it like 5 or 6 times, so it was a turd when I got done with it.
Oh, see, most cars aren't a Camaro. Most of the time we get like, it was a 74 Vega. We're like, okay, what was it? Was it cool? Was it not cool?
All right, question 4, Mike. If your house is on fire, everyone, including your pets, are safe, what's the one thing that you want to get out of your house?
I only get one?
Only one.
Yeah.
Okay, so as long as I had backed up my most previous episode, so I wouldn't need my laptop. I would take the bass guitar that my dad bought me when I was 15.
Awesome.
All right. Electric or acoustic?
It's electric.
Ooh.
I was in a band for like 1,000 years.
1,000 years. He's at 1,073 right now. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't know?
Very Yoda-like of you.
Last question. Question 5, Mike. You have $9.18 in your pocket. What all do you buy?
I'm going to buy a bottle of wine for my wife, but the cheap kind from Ollie's is like $3.50 something.
I was going to say.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go to Dollar General and buy paper plates and candy.
What kind of candy?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what they have, but hopefully sour gummy worms,
Nice.
some Reese's some Reese's Buttercups, and let's see, that's $3. Hopefully they have Swedish Fish.
Ooh, I like Swedish food. I'm good with you. Yeah.
See, we were on track. Like, I was like, if you go down to my cupboard right now, you're going to find that. And then I was like, oh, but Swedish Fish? I don't know. I mean, it's not that I don't like them.
The texture, man.
But it's,
yeah, I like
but Reese cups and sour gummy worms. Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, have you had those new Reese? I shouldn't say new. I mean, they've been around for a minute now, but the Reese cups with the Reese Pieces in them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh yeah.
They're great.
Oh yeah. It's fantastic.
All right. Well, that was 5 questions. So that's going to wrap up our guest segment. So if you're interested in finding us, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at Just Some Podcast. You can find us on the web, www.justsomepodcast.com. Our email is admin@justsomepodcast.com. Mike, why don't you tell them where they can catch you at?
You can find everything we do at poppsych101.com, including our blog, which is pretty new, but we're writing articles there. But Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at poppsych101.
Awesome. Hey, Mike, we really appreciate having you on the show, man. I'm glad to have you on and have you talk so candidly about your bipolar and things that you've been through.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
Tom, you got anything to say, man?
No, Mike, just what Ben said, big fan of yours, and it was really awesome having you on the show, and maybe someday we can do something again. I really had it a good time.
I'm always down. Yep.
All right.
All right, well, on that note, I hope everybody has a great week.
Hey, everybody stay safe out there.
Won't you come with me tonight? You're fat, you might not get another chance to be beautiful. At least not tonight, no. Said woman, we can dance the night away. Make some magic at another buffet. You could eat first if you like. She looked at me, kinda crazy. Said, hey, you little misfit, we're gonna fight, yeah. 'Cause anger's 2 letters from stranger, 1 letter from danger. It's where you'll be if you don't stop pissing me off. 2 letters from stranger, 1 letter